Our guest on the Mental Toughness podcast episode today is yours truly. See, what we're doing today is we are recapping the Prairie on Fire Backyard Ultra that I took part in. It's a 4.1 mile loop in the daytime, and at nighttime, it's an out and back 4.1 mile out and back. And so we're recapping the experience, the hope, the strength from that race. And we got yours truly here, Will Drumright, who's going to be flipping the script. He's going to be interviewing me, and we're going to get this going. So without further ado, let's have fun on the Mental Toughness podcast. Our guest today, Dr. Rob Bell. Will Drumright, take it, buddy. Glad you're here, man.
I'm glad I'm here. I'm glad I'm here too. And I think people were expecting you when yours truly, but I am honored to be here and happy we can collaborate on this and talk about the race. So anytime we have an opportunity to do that, I think it's fun. So anytime you call, I'm happy to do it. And part of what was great timing with this as well is I'm not sure if this is video or not, but
There we
this
go, the hinge.
yeah, the Hinge signed for my grandparents because it was one of the things that my grandfather wanted to make sure that he got back to me. Um,
I signed that one on the cover.
yeah, you
That
signed it
was
on.
when I was signing on the cover. Yeah.
Yeah, so found that the other day when we were going through some stuff, but it was marked March for me. So that was really cool and timely. So what a great time to get into this. But yeah, enough about us. Let's talk about the race. Let's get into it, right? So, Prairie on Fire Backyard Ultra, right? Let's just like set the scene.
Yeah.
Why was this such a big deal? You talked about this being a big race for you. What made Prairie on Fire important?
Yeah. So when the Backyard Ultra, the concept is always sort of fascinating to me. And it was an idea that, the originator, race director, Laz, he started Barclays Marathon. He started the Backyard Ultra. So as another like sadistic type of race. And it goes till there's one finisher left. And when I saw that this was sort of in my backyard, it was close going to be a Backyard Ultra as I could. I signed up, and that was in January. So I worked all year for this race specifically. Everything was really just intent on that. So the other races that I did, 100K and then another 50K, that was just all designed for just preparing for this race. And what attracted me to it was you don't need to be the fastest, right? Like I don't have the wheels anymore to
Mm,
even come close. I mean, I'm middle of the packer when it comes to all ultra races, and I've got to be okay with that. But in this format, like you don't need to be the fastest, you just can't quit. And that's what really appealed me to this. And why you don't need to be the fastest and what the format is because of the 4.1 mile loop, you have 1 hour to complete the loop. So if you run it in 45 minutes, you have 15 minutes to rest, refuel, stretch, anything you want before the top of the next hour. It's a countdown, three, two, one, and then go. So that's why this race really appealed to me, man. And I put everything I had into it.
mhm. Yeah, and it's so fascinating because again, it's in a sense it's open-ended as a race because like I don't want it to be, skipped over or just brushed out. Like it's last runner standing, right? Like that is a unique challenge, especially to, these races which are already difficult, with the mileage and everything else that's being put up to that. So that's wild. And so with the 4.1 mile loop, you just have to be back at the starting line by the time they say go. Is that
Yeah,
a
essentially, absolutely.
wow? Okay.
Yep.
Uh yeah, I mean that's such a unique concept. I think the word you use there, sadistic, sounds appropriate with that, but like being able to push yourself because it's again, you don't have to be the fastest, but can you be the toughest? So what was the mental and physical preparation? You talked about some of the races there, but how do you prepare for that type of race? Basically saying, "Hey, can I keep going?" Or how can I keep moving?
Yeah, man. I mean, that's a good point. I mean, we did a couple of training runs. The other part about this that was really important was the family aspect. So, my wife and kids were both crew. And why that was significant is because all other ultras, I'm going to see them again in 4 hours. You know what I mean? Because it's a point to point or it's a loop, and you just don't see people that often. Here, you see them at the bottom and top of every hour, man. So their role in that was so important. It was so amazing for them to be there. And so we as a team, and it was the pit crew, man. We as a team trained. We went down to Florida and did a training run down there for 6 hours. And then we did the same thing when we came back here at the actual location, man, for 6 hours. Set it up as close. We play like we train, right? You hear me say that one all the time, man. We play like we train. We race like we train. So having that down with the cadence, with the rhythm, trying to get the hydration and nutrition dialed in, so many details, man. That was like part of it. And then the other aspect of just training was just really upping the mileage, man, and getting that mileage to the point of what happens when you really hit that pain cave, right? When you hit that point of when you just really can't run anymore, and when it really gets difficult. Um, and that was just part of the training, man. There wasn't really anything about that that stood out that went wrong. It was just, I was probably the healthiest going into any race I've ever been as well. Didn't overtrain. Started like prioritizing sleep a little bit more, like the last couple months leading into it.
Hmm.
Instead of, because I'm a 5 a.m. guy, instead of getting up at 5 a.m., I was kind of sleeping in until like 6:30, which I actually loved. Like that was great, man. But I was prioritizing sleep, just
Sure.
making sure my body was healthy going in, man. And that was mostly like with the training, a lot of strength training with this one too, man. Just make sure those legs were going to be good and in working condition.
Hmm. Yeah. Are some of those training adaptations is kind of what it sounds like because you've done I don't know how many ultras up to this point in time. How many do you know how many ultras you've done?
I don't, man.
No.
Okay.
Yeah, but yeah,
Oh,
you
it's not in the hundreds. It's in the dozens and dozens,
it's in
maybe.
the it's in the yeah. But I mean, but still, each of those is a significant amount of miles and talking about getting the body prepared and everything else, like lessons learned from that. What do you feel like is the biggest lesson you learned in preparing for this that maybe you didn't do as well early on earlier races?
Um, Boy, that's a really good question, man. Like, I really just felt the preparation for this one was as best as it could be. It was probably the best um I've been prepared. You know, getting to the line healthy, the best type of ability is availability. And
Hmm.
you just never want to get to those lines where you're a little bit overtrained. And there have been times where I've been overtrained, and this one I wasn't, man. I actually, got a coach, Luke Tyberski, and helped me out with that, just planning everything and making sure, hey, man, you're really recovered after longer runs. Um, and so Luke Tyberski, I mean, if anybody wants to always check him out, it's the ultimate uh, triathlon, and that's a little Netflix series on there. But fantastic guy. But he helped guide me and just trusted him.
Hmm. Yeah, I remember you talking about that a few months before the race when we were just catching up with each other, talking about how the preparation was a little bit different and the importance of having that coach just to take care of the body and doing everything. So yeah, definitely go and check Luke out. What's the name of that podcast or the
Luke Tyberski, the ultimate triathlon is the show on Netflix.
nice.
Yeah,
Okay.
good dude.
Yeah, that's great. And yeah, I think that's important. Obviously, you want to evolve and learn how to get better at at what you're doing. And it sounds like you did a really good job of doing that. And one of the things that you brought up was the importance of the team and treating it, kind of like the pit crew, like with, the hydration stations and that, like that's changing the tires and gassing up the vehicle, doing all that. How much time was spent intentionally developing like kind of the specific routines around that aspect of the race?
Man, a lot, because I'm not as good of a runner as some others. I have to make up in areas where I can, and making sure that we had a plan on what every stop was going to be in terms of, hey, what's the hydration I'm taking back out? Because I just had a handheld on this one, had backup plans if we need it, but what is the nutrition as well? And man, we stayed on top of it, man. And how much time went into it, buddy? Probably more than they wanted. You know what I mean? Because we're trying to prepare for all these different scenarios that we control what we can control, we move what we can move, but we still don't know what are some going to be the unknowns, which happened in the race.
Hmm.
But we didn't mess up anywhere. It wasn't like, hey, a third and goal and then we false start penalty. We didn't have any of those. And that's the part where you got to look back on and say, look, man, we did everything we could, man. And and that's the part where it's just, only when you get into it do you see the amount of details.
Hmm.
And the details, we don't call them small things in our house, man. We call them details, and the details matter. And that was part of it, man. Like I even did a sweat test early on because, I wrote the book Puke and Rally, and that wasn't just a book, is because I puked in a lot of races, man. So I had a
Right.
puke and rally moment in this race. However, going to sweat test, like I was losing 16 milligrams of sodium per hour, 1600. And so if you look at one of those elements like the LMNT, like that's 1,000. So
Mm.
I was losing 1,600 under normal conditions, man.
Hmm.
So you have to stay on top of that stuff because once you start to get dehydrated, you're not gonna be able to catch up. And so those were some of those details as well, man.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. At that point in
Yeah, I'm a
time,
super sweater.
apparently so. Learned something new about you. Wow. Yeah, just yeah, the details I think are so important because, in those types of races, it's again getting the body prepared, but then how are you sustaining yourself, keeping the engine running optimally? Um, and you referenced Pukid Rally, talk about that moment in the race. I want to get into the race and kind of breaking that down a little bit more. But I want to reference, a title of another one of your books real quick. No one gets there alone.
Hmm.
So you again, I like, what, how did having this team or the people, around you, obviously your family, how do you think that elevated your training, but also maybe how did it help keep yourself in check with your goal going into this race?
Yeah, good question. Well, so no one gets there alone. It's a team sport, and
Hmm.
I would constantly just always be thinking about it, man. Like, look, their job is going to be get me ready. My job is to keep moving, like no matter what, no matter what. We're not quitting in the
Hmm.
chair. And even if I don't make it back on one of the times, like that's part of it. That's gonna be racing, but we're not quitting in the chair. And so that was definitely a motivating factor, man, knowing that they're going to be that they are part of this, that they have that they're vested in it. And then my daughter and son going on runs with me. I mean, they would go on some of those 4 mile runs, and
Yeah.
it meant a lot, man. It meant a lot just to be able to spend time with them. Um, when you think of no one gets there alone in this format, yes, it's last man standing. However, you can only go as far as the last two people are going to be going. So if you don't have somebody pushing somebody else, they're not going to go as far as they possibly can because it's dependent on everybody else. So if everyone drops at 85, all that winner can do is 89, if that makes sense.
Mm.
That's why then this becomes an ultimate team sport because it is dependent on everybody else to keep pushing everybody.
Hmm. Yeah. And again, that just adds to the unique perspective I think that this race has of being
Yep.
able to do that. But then, yeah, that
I
team
left I,
pressure.
I left you at a bad spot there. Well, I shouldn't have done that. I'm hosting enough podcasts, man, where if somebody leaves you hanging, it's like, yeah, yeah. But I did leave you hanging on that. That was mostly just to share, like, hey, man, the overall environment of that was a team sport. And
Yeah.
when you look at no one gets there alone in the race itself, um, if I'm running a regular race, I don't get to run with the lead pack. I see them at the beginning. I probably won't see them at the end because they'll be gone. Here, like I got to run with Jeff Walker for a lap. I got to run with Cameron Balls out there, man. I got to run with so many different people, at different times and
Yeah.
just talking with them and hearing their story and hey, what's their goals and what have they overcome and then once they get to those pain parts and at nighttime is a little bit more difficult, but man, that's just
Sure.
like that fills your soul when you get to spend time with like other people. And the best part of the race was um actually running like with this 12-year-old girl, Hazel. Like I ran one loop with her, but she was kind of struggling early on, and I for some reason I just kind of linked up with her. I was kind of in the back and was just sharing with her, hey, this is the strategy you have to have, right? You just make it to the tree. That's the only thing. You fill your mind with making it to the tree. Now we're just going to make it to the parking lot. And we make it to the parking lot together. All right, now we're
Right.
just walking this section. Now I'm going to show you another trick. You're not back at that tree. And she kind of smiled and was like, yeah, that's the trick. That's what you do in every single race, right? Just remind yourself, hey, at least I'm not back there. Now you're giving yourself that little pep talk and that dose of reality. Like, yeah, you're right. I'm not back there. And that's it. You don't get consumed with running 100 miles or running 150 or even running 4 miles. You just make it to that turn. You just make it to that tree. And that was the part where running with her and like being able to kind of help her was filled my soul, man. That was the best part because you can't help out anyone else without also helping out yourself. Like I took my own medicine later on in the race when it was really getting hard. Like I was doing the same
Yeah.
exact thing, man. And I was telling her.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and to that point as well, I think the way you delivered, like, hey, I've, here's the next trick, right? Having a quick little joke, right? Dad joke esque, if you will. But like sometimes you do need that, like, hey, I've made it this far, and like keep
Yep.
and keeping it going because again, that just that
I mean,
is a good way to do it.
12-year-old girl, man. She ran an ultra
Yeah.
marathon. She ran 32 miles.
Yeah, it's not often that like I stop like just mid conversation go run that back. Like when you said that to me the other day, I was like a 12-year-old girl, an ultra marathon. Like that was my favorite thing to tell a couple of my friends for like the next 2 days. Hey guys, you're not going to believe this.
There was an 11-year-old girl who is the race director's daughter.
Okay.
I think she's 11. She might be 12.
Okay.
I mean, she ran 50 miles, man.
Yeah.
This is the format. If you want to set a distance goal, this is the format to do it in.
Yeah.
Now, if speed is it, if you want to run a sub 4 hour marathon or sub 3 hour marathon, like, yeah, you got to run a regular race. But if you want to
Right.
run, and if you're doing a 50 mile or something like that, or even 100, but if you want to go distance, if you want to go far, man, you go together. And this is the race
Hmm.
to do it.
Hmm. Yeah, it definitely seems like that because again, with it, being last runner standing, hey, let's, how far can we push each other? It's, I'm sure, early on in the race, kind of that, being able to connect with some of the other runners, figure out what's pushing them, to be able to connect with that, but then also to get to share your own why, and have those conversations are very meaningful. But yeah, I'm sure the conversations as miles got higher and it got darker, I'm sure those conversations seemed to lessen a little bit.
Yeah, it was just difficult, man, because then at nighttime, like it's an out and back and I can always get into that. It's just a little bit more unless you're running with somebody. And at that point, man, I had, the tire issues and then it was really difficult.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let's dive into the race. I think there's a couple of segments to it, and being able to hear your perspective and kind of what you had to, what you went through, maybe overcome, or things you were proud of throughout that. But so getting into it, the first few loops, what was your vibe like? What were you trying to accomplish with your rhythm? Like, what was that?
Yeah, great question, man. Our goal was to come in. Our goal was rate of perceived exertion. That was the main thing. Wasn't really even looking at the clock.
Okay.
Rate of perceived exertion. I wanted it to be at a 2. And so I ran a marathon and it felt like I hadn't even done anything. It really did. I mean,
Wow.
it's not hyperbole. Like, I mean, I ran even when I was like at 50 miles, it was like, okay, like we're ready to go. Um, so that was really the whole goal, man, is to not exert any effort on emotion, any effort physically. And we're coming in at like 52, 53 minutes. because that gave us enough time for a quick stretch, um, eat, hydration. Let's go. And that
Wow.
was all. That was all we needed.
Yeah. So yeah, yeah, I mean, you were targeting 7 to 8 minutes. Again, you were talking about the details, the small details of like, what can I accomplish, and is that, is that able to keep yourself at a two, in terms of getting ready to go back out
Yeah.
there and have that. So
Yep.
so rate of perceived exertion.
That's it, man. RPE,
That's it.
buddy.
RPE. I like that. Nice. Uh, yeah. So yeah, and it's fascinating too to hear that it's, again, you ran a marathon and you were like, all right, I'm just getting warmed up. By 50, you're kind of, feel like you're starting to get in a little bit more of the groove there.
Yeah.
What was the pacing probably was important, the fueling early on, I assume.
Yeah, man, I was probably running at yeah, the fueling was great. Fueling went great. I was probably running at maybe like an 11:30 pace and then walking when I wanted to, and I would just kind of walk at different times just so, I'm going to have that heart rate drop back down. Not going to geek up too much. I'm not the best heart rate guy. But it was then, the first 12 hours, man, were just so enjoyable. And then it goes into the nighttime. So then the nighttime, then you switch, you got to put headlamp on, you got to have the gear, and you're now an out and back. And um, those first two nighttime loops were good. And then at mile 60, when I went out for that third one, um, a little pop in the tire, man. And what had happened was very early on this lap out there, I just felt a stabbing pain going through the bottom of my foot. So it's like and everything I was stepping on, I felt like I was just stepping kind of on a knife. It was on the fleshy
Mm,
part, but then it was also hurting on the outside of my foot as well. And so I slowed down and tried to like change my gait a little bit. And one of the things that we've talked about is you don't speak pain into existence. And that's very important, right? Because once you start saying, my legs are really tired, well, guess what, man? Your legs are really tired. So once you start saying, man, this really hurts, it's
mhm.
going to start hurting. And so coming in there and really being aware of that, I had to announce, said, look, there's an issue going on with the foot. Like, so we tried Theragunning it, tried putting the analgesics on it, right? Like the creams on it, try and get that thing to settle down. And then and so we treat it when I come in, I ignore it when I go out. But when I'm going out, trying to ignore it, um, I can't really push off of it, man. I'm having to now shuffle. And that's okay. I'm just shuffling. But then I get to mile 80 and now it's not going away. It's getting worse. And now I've got a blown tire. And it was at mile 80, man, that I needed to readjust the goals. And I brought that in. I told them, I said, look, man, like it's a struggle now. Um, let's just make it to 100. Let's make it to 100 miles. And they didn't even want to hear that. They were trained. And when I say they, like my wife and my daughter, son,
Mhm.
really trained well. They didn't want to hear any of it because that's what we talked about. We're not talking about setting
Yeah.
a goal at 100. The race starts at 100. But where I was, man, now I'm trying to make 13-minute miles. It's an out and back. And
Hmm.
this was the hardest part, but it was also the most like freeing and kind of like the spiritual standpoint too.
Sure.
And the reason why is because now I'm the last one. Like it's an out and back. You see everybody that comes back, right? And now I'm the last one out there for probably like the last four laps, man. And I can't afford to walk. My legs were really okay, man. I just had this damn foot problem that hurt every time I'm pushing off. So I'm trying to like just shuffle. And I'm trying to shuffle at like a 13-minute mile. And us sitting here, 13-minute mile, not really a problem, but here, yeah, it was kind of a problem because you can't air it out. You can't like change and then there were still sometimes, man, I wanted to like walk a little bit, but now I couldn't afford to walk. So I had to just keep shuffling. And now I'm coming in at 56, 57 minutes. Here was the part that was spiritually liberating was I never listen to music when I run, and in this
Mhm.
race, like I had prepared, like I'm actually gonna have some music, man. This is gonna be some fun. So it was
Yeah.
at nighttime that I had some of that music, and I had some of that faith music that was going, and I was clicking the headlamp off, and the sunlight, I mean the moonlight was lighting my path.
Mm,
And there were just some songs in there, man, that just kind of brought me to tears because um, I'm kind of like praying I want this foot pain to leave, like get rid of this foot pain. And it was like there's just something more important that was going on. I couldn't really assess it at the time, but that's the experience. That's why I do these races. People are gonna like, why to do it? Yeah, it's to push yourself, but it's the experience, man. Like to be in the arena, to be pushing yourself along with other people, and then to have sort of that moment where this is not going well. I know it's not going well, and I know I'm not going to be reaching my ultimate goal. But man, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, man, and the moon's shining. You just had your birthday, and and tears are kind of running down my face, man, because it's just a joyful moment, just trying to embrace that moment. And that's the part where you always try to hold on to those, man. And that was the difficult but the most rewarding part of that race as well. And the reason
mhm.
why I bring up the birthday is because at midnight is another example of how great this format is. At midnight, I just asked the race director, could you just sing me and my daughter happy birthday? Because we share the same birthday. So at
Mhm.
midnight, he and the video's out there on Instagram, and he's singing happy birthday, and then five, four, three, two, one, and she blows the candle out, and to be able to celebrate that like in that environment, man, I want nothing better, man. That was the best.
Yeah, that was a moment I definitely want to make sure we talked about because it's again seeing the video. If you haven't seen it, it's on his Instagram. It's awesome. And just knowing what that meant, and knowing your family, like such a cool moment to be able to do that. Plus, to be able to do that again, I don't know if the pain had started up to that point in time, but to have kind of a human moment, a family moment, to be, to be a dad, I think, in the midst of all that, like, can help motivate through some of that pain,
Yeah.
obviously adjusting your plans and everything else like that. But I think that set up that, those that 4 a.m. prayer, that you get to have with yourself. Um,
Yeah, man. I think between 60 and 80, we was trying to ignore it. We're just trying to ignore it and hope this goes away. And I think that was like during the birthday time, the birthday celebration. So I mean, we were still mentally in it.
yeah, yeah. Okay. Well, and I think that's important. And to, I guess, to give it a little bit of context in terms of time, because we bounce around a little bit in terms of
Yeah,
like
yeah.
kind of at what point in time, like when did the race start? Like what time in the day?
So race started at 8 a.m. on Saturday morning.
Okay. So 8 a.m. Saturday morning, and you're basically running in sunlight till probably 8 p.m.,
8
8:30
p.m. is
at
when the
that
night,
point.
yep, is when the
Is when
night
the night.
loop started.
Okay, so then 8 p.m. Is that when it switched to an out and back?
Out and back. That's right.
Okay. How many miles were you at, when out and back started approximately?
That was 50.
50? Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So okay, yeah, that gives a little bit of time and kind of context in terms of kind of, I think, people listening trying to understand kind of where we're at. So then yeah, again, you're 50 miles in, 12 hours in, and then you've still got, um what, another 8 hours before you're what sounds like it's just a beautiful moment, out on the trail running. And to your point, and this may be my own context that shared in it, but there's something about doing a challenge like this, what, or anything where you put yourself at that point to where you can have a vulnerable prayer. You don't, you know what you're asking for in terms of subsiding the pain, of anything else like that. But the biggest part of that is that you get to be present with it, right? It's not a plea. It's a, hey, this is where I'm at. I mean, where I'm at, like, kind of go through that. And I think that's important. Do you feel like, is that
Yeah.
associated at all, do you think, with like the runner's high experience? Do you think there's something like there, or anything else about that moment, or any of those moments stand out?
I think it can be present in any moment that you're pushing yourself and other people. There's an experience with it. I think that can show up. I always say the three types of prayer, right? God, help me. We've all
Hmm.
prayed that one. God, give me, right? Grant me. And then the most important one, and that is God, use me.
Hmm.
And that's the one we don't think we pray that one the most, but that one's the most powerful, right, man? And it's just like, um, yeah, just just powerful moments.
Hmm. Yeah. Uh, they are powerful moments, and to be able to have those and share that is wonderful, because I think that's an important part of the entirety of the race experience. Um, Yeah, because it's, yeah, adjusting your plans and everything. And I want to get into a couple more moments, right? Because I want to know what the hinge moment of the race. I intentionally haven't asked you this even in our own conversations leading into today, because I want to hear it. But before we get into that is like when you have to have the conversation. Like you talked about how your team is trained, hey, the race begins at 100, and you're bringing in the news, hey, something's up, we've got to make an adjustment, right? What was that moment like? Was it difficult to come to that realization, or just to, will admit it that there's something going on, or to change the plan, or like what was that experience like?
Um, so it was very difficult. And I think that was sort of like the hinge moment itself was the decision to bring this up. And it because I just know that if anyone has ridden in a peloton, and if you're in a group, a pack of riders and you're on the back, at some point, like you're gonna get dropped, right? If you're at the back, like the safest place to be is kind of like right in the middle. If you're in the front, you're working the hardest, but it's safest to be is actually right in the middle. And that's the same thing for this, man. I'm at the back and I'm just not able to hang, man. I'm not able to push off. I'm having to shuffle. And, I've ran 20 miles on it and the pain is getting worse, man. And it hurts, dude. It really hurts. It hurts to push off. And I haven't experienced this pain. I wish I had, man. I wish I had, like, but it was just nothing I've experienced. And I can always talk about like what it was diagnosed as, but the difficult part was bringing it up. They didn't want to hear it, but I need to introduce it. And I said, well,
Hmm.
we're gonna keep trying, but I'm just letting you know, like this is, um, I think I might have said it, man. Like I got a flat tire. I'm trying my best. I got a flat tire, um, because and overall by that point, yeah, I mean, I started to get tired, but it was just the wheel was blown, man, and so it was frustrating at the same time and humbling and at the same time still having to be sort of grittish about it, because there were people that dropped at 82, 87, and like I at least need to set a goal out there that I'm gonna go hit it, you know,
Hmm.
and to get 100 miles in 24 hours, that's not nothing. A lot of people, it inspired them. A lot of people messaged me saying that was a great accomplishment, and I have to focus on that because it was disappointing, at a point, man. It was like that the job wasn't done, man. Job's not done. That's not what we came here to do. And someone had then told me, if you can't if you can't be happy with the race that you wanted, you have to be proud of the race that you did. And I
Hmm.
was, man. I didn't quit. My tire was blown, man, and like if you see that a lot, like in those races, I mean, somebody's quads will just totally seize up on them, and they just can't go and they're not going to hit it. Now, if there was a regret, that was it. And here's what I mean. I had, I wanted to at least run across with my son and daughter the finish line for 100 miles. And the reason why is because my other 100 miler, like they ran across the finish line with me. And here, she didn't want to hear any of that, man. And she was telling me, like, you ain't quitting here at 100. You're not quitting at 100. I'm trying to, like, and here's where it comes the power of the mind, Will. If I was aware of it at mile 80, I would have set the goal for 104.
Mm.
Not at 100, man. Let's set it for 104, man. Because I would have at least stretched it past 100. But once I set that, and once we ever set that mileage goal, once we ever set that goal and we hit it, we ain't going past it, man. And that
Yeah.
was so true because I was anchored to getting that 100 in, and that was it. Like, I'm not saying it was 20 miles is nothing, but it was still 20 miles, man. It was like 40 miles. It ended up being like Doc said it was a fifth metatarsal like stress fracture, man. So
Hmm.
I think it's a little bit more there because we're a week post of that. And I mean, it's still hurting. I got a boot that I'm walking on, but I anchored myself to that 100 miler. And once you anchor yourself to that goal, you ain't going past it. And that was a real big lesson there, man, because it was like, yeah, man, probably should have set it for 104. And if I didn't make it, I would have failed out there because we always said we're not failing in the chair. And so I got
Hmm.
back up on that line after I came in at like 58, right? So I mean,
Cool.
2 minutes turnaround. We got to head back out. I headed back out, man. I ran probably, but I didn't have any intention of being able to finish that, man. I ran and walked probably 400 yards and then cashed it in, man. Said, all right, let's figure out what happened to the foot.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and it's interesting to hear you talk about again, like how you would set the goal to be 104. Because as you were talking about coming in, having the conversation, which one, I liked how you brought it up in terms of, hey, I've got to at least introduce this to the situation, right? Because again, it's like, hey, like we need to make adjustments based off of this. It's not, oh no, panic, alarm bells or anything else. It's let me adjust this or, let me bring this up so that we can be ready for it. And one of the things that I thought was important too is that you set that next goal for yourself of saying, hey, I'm introducing this, but it's also important for me to set that goal.
Yeah.
Wanting to continue, right? I
Yeah,
think
there was a marker that was out there that I mean we got to
yeah,
hit this
right.
for sure. We had to readjust because I just know like it's the same thing, man. It's like I'm not going to be able to. I don't know at what point I'm gonna be able to make it past. I just know this. I can't push, and I'm not going to be hitting my ultimate goal, man. So let's just set another goal here, and let's just check that off, man. Let's knock it down.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And it's, yeah, knocking it down, still being able to give yourself, hey, this is, the metric that I want to hit. This is, what you and your team reviewing as the standard of like, hey, this is what we came here to do. Now it's like you said, it's your job to get across the finish line, right? You're part of that team there. Was in was the realization that you had a flat tire, had an issue that was kind of changed up a little bit of the perspective a little bit. Was that the lowest point of the race, or did that come maybe after, like in that last 20 miles? Like where do you feel like your low point was? Like where do you feel like you had to really battle?
Um, I think the low point came probably about 80-ish when I had to set that goal. When I had to readjust the goal and because it kind of just set in that look, man, the die is cast here. This isn't getting any better and it's getting worse. Um, that was the most painful part because at no point did I ever entertain that at all in training. Hey, if you have this, right? If you blow an ACL, then yeah, it's okay then to just do the best you can. Like we didn't really entertain that, man. So it's like, all right, man, if you're gonna have a stress fracture in your foot when the race, are you gonna readjust the goal sort of thing? You know what I mean? So there wasn't any entertaining of that, man. And that was the part that
Hmm.
was afterwards I had to really come to terms with that. Um, but in the moment, that was the lowest point, man.
Hmm. Yeah, and I appreciate that because it's a tough time, but to be able to get through that, and then like you talk about again, being mentally tough and like being able to push yourself in a race like this, like toughness takes on a you get to live it. It becomes, I think, very vivid of what have you been training for and doing that, right? Um, in that last after that 80-mile mark. right? And setting the goal, getting to 100. Was was there a moment, or because you talked about the team, you talked about helping out, and chatting with some of the runners, helping out that 12-year-old girl. Was there any reciprocation of that, like in terms of like, did you have an experience with a runner in that last 20 miles that you felt like helped you kind of work through that pain or keep
I
going?
was no, man, I was by myself, man. I was the last one coming in, And
Yeah.
so runners will have their vests on so I could see the back of the colors,
Okay.
but it was solitude, man. It was
Wow.
just me, man.
Yeah. Yeah, and then it's probably a pretty big, change in terms of what the environment was early on. Obviously, runners are, having to stop, or and the paces are spreading out, right? And so yeah, that's wow. It's a dark and lonely road to make it almost sound musical at that point in time.
Yeah, yeah. And so to use like the technique was, and I can tell you on like, because I have it memorized now. That was the one part like I never did that in training. I never went from trail to asphalt back to road. And it must have been that's what just led to
Mm,
the tire being blown, man. That's the only thing I can think of. And so here was the visual cues on the way out, if you want to hear this on the out and back, right? It was, and this ain't gonna make sense to anybody, but it makes sense to me. On the left, a half mile from the start was a farmhouse, and then a quarter mile past that on the right was they had a couple coolers there for people if they wanted something to drink. Next from that was a road, and then from that road, it was the longest stretch. That was to Cumberland Road. That was the next road, and Cumberland Road um, was a mile and a half. So I had another half mile there to go, turn around, come back. Now I'm back at Cumberland Road. I have a mile and a half to go. So I knew exactly where I was. From Cumberland Road, it was to the next road, then to the coolers, then to the farmhouse. Then the farmhouse, I had to go around, and then I knew where I was. But that like half mile, man, dude, half mile wasn't like you would think, oh, it takes a couple minutes. But it was taking me like 10
mm,
minutes, man, you know?
wow. Yeah.
Shuffling, man, shuffling, just left foot, right foot at that point. And it wasn't because I was exhausted either. It's just because the tire was blown, man, and affected everything, man.
Yeah.
How many times have I
Hmm.
said that in this podcast, man? Tire was blown.
A fair amount, but but it's, but I think it's a good way to look at it. Again, you've gone with the pit crew, the analogy and everything else like this. I mean, again, your body, our bodies are high functioning, vehicles, and being able to push performance. So being able to take care of that, because well, and I think it's important too, like, viewing that as again, it was, that's something that's out of your control, right? Like some, the reaction there. You don't know that you're going to have a stress fracture. All these things that are going to end up happening to be able um to do that. But again, that's where I think the toughness, what the mental, and then also I also firmly believe as well the spiritual side, kind of for you, of being able to push it becomes important. You get to live out what you work with others on. And I think that's always an important moment to be able to have with that, right? Um, Switching gears a little bit, but I think we've kind of talked a little bit about it. Well, let me set this up first.
Yeah, man.
You didn't puke during the race.
No, man, that was great, dude.
Congrats.
The hydration
Nice.
and nutrition was spot on, as best it's ever
Yeah.
been, man.
Yeah. So what was the puke and rally moment?
The puke and the puke was the foot, and the rally was just make it to 100, man. Because I think
Yeah.
the initial part would be, and the initial response would be just shut it down, man. Like it's pain in the foot, like that's just. But at never one time did that enter my mind.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't enter my mind. My thing was you got to let's just you got to have a target. You got to have something we're going towards here.
Mm-hmm.
But no,
Yeah.
I mean I wasn't like um never ever considered doing permanent damage, never considered dropping. Like it was just reset another goal, man. Find a way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. And yeah, and that's, I think, the power of, like, it's, hey, it's setting a new goal. but then understanding how those micro goals, like what you were just talking about, hey, I got to get to, got to get to the farmhouse, then the cooler, then it's the street, and building that up, right? Because again, it's that sense of a, accomplishment that you get to have within yourself to keep pushing in that time, right? Outside of the physical, obviously the physical discomfort and pain, what's what's the hard part about maintaining some of like some of those target goals when when you're having to adjust the goal on the fly like that?
Interesting question, man. Just to not get burdened with any of the outside stuff during that time. I mean, it's still setting the short-term goal. Um, that's it. I think that was probably the most difficult thing, man.
Hmm. Yeah. And I have to throw you a curveball at least once in a while.
Yeah, man, that was a good question. I really thought about it. It was the most difficult part about that. I think it was just, yeah, not letting the picture get too big, not entertaining
Sure.
anything else, because there was still disappointment there, man. That's the thing, man. And I get back to this one a lot. It's like, your character gets tested when you're situations where you can't win. Well, that's no fun to be in, man. You don't want to be in many situations
No.
where you can't win, but it really just shows a lot about you, like during those moments, and can you keep fighting? Can you keep in it? Can you keep the positive attitude? Can you just keep enjoying the experience of it?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah, and that's not a situation, especially, as any competitor wants to find themselves in, because again, you want to win, you want to accomplish what you set out to go and do, and and being able to do that. So yeah, that can be a difficult thing to walk through. But again, it's your what does and I think I'm biased because I know you and your character, but I also think that a lot of that training and what you developed with your team around you helped kind of infuse that character a little bit more. Just having those people around you to support
Yeah.
you.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And then, so then in hindsight, in retrospect, when we look at this, is it a better story that, hey, man, I got 100 miles and 40 miles, the last 40 miles was on, a stress fractured foot, or man, I made it to 130 and then just couldn't make it back in, I mean, so you look at like what you overcome, the adversity you face, and that's the part, right? Like, we look at Michael Jordan as great, but boy, the real Michael Jordan was when he had food poisoning, right? Like, dude, you
Hmm.
still do that. So maybe that's the real story in that. Maybe that's the part that hopefully can inspire somebody else. It's just like, just because you got a fractured foot doesn't mean you can't keep running, right?
Right. Yeah. The Yeah, you say to me, all the time, test becomes the testimony or mess becomes the message. In terms of being able to do that. But you do have to wade through some of that disappointment a little bit, right? Like it's, that's maybe sometimes a silver lining to put on it, but it's, there is, I think, a lesson there, as well of how can you continue to push yourself when things get,
Yeah. And it was a really weird emotion, and I would be remiss if I just didn't say I had to talk that out afterwards, because the
yeah.
few days after, yeah, man, I'm still on the, uh, coming down off the mountaintop, but I had to talk to people and I just said, man, I just don't know why, like, I can't be fully happy. And part of it is because I had an expectation, and
Mm,
expectations turn into tomorrow's resentments. And it was that expectation that was just kind of hanging out there, man, that I was able to get some good counsel and just kind of talk with some individuals and ask some good questions. And it was like, yeah, and it was that expectation. That's why there was that disappointment that was still with it.
hmm. Yeah, well, and I think that's also an important part about the team perspective as well is what's the debrief? Because results are going to be what they're going to be, but how are you processing it and being able to address it? I think becomes an important part of that,
Yeah.
of the race process.
You talk about details, man. It took a whole day, an entire day to put everything away that we had.
Wow.
Everything that was in boxes from, body glide to tape to bandages to, electronics. to food, to
Hmm.
hydration, to the tables, man, to the Theraguns, right? To everything that we had. I mean, it took a whole day to put all that stuff away. That's how many details were in this.
Hmm. Wow. That's a lot. And
Oh,
again, and I knew it was a lot of details, but like an entire day, like you just, me cleaning out my garage is basically what you just described.
yeah, it was exactly it, man. From everything. Yeah,
Wild. Um, but yeah, and I think that that really, again, goes into again like understanding the preparation of what it takes in terms of being able to, compete in a challenge like this, or and just kind of the effort in any sort of endeavor. This being, well, I mean, an ultra.
yeah.
Makes for all of those challenges, and again, with that, you want to try and be as prepared as possible, for everything going into it.
So you gonna ask me the question?
Oh, I'm thinking about it.
Go ahead, ask it. Am I gonna do it again?
Are you going to do it again?
Man, I was thinking about that right away after that race was done. Um,
I'm not
my
surprised.
here's one of the best parts is I think Ryan, my daughter, is gonna race it, and I also think Porter's gonna race it. So I told them, I
That's
said, look,
awesome.
if you get to the point where you can run 13 miles like without stopping, you can run a marathon in this because it's the perfect environment to do it. And
Yeah.
yeah, I would love it if they did that.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was trying to dance around it because I knew, like, I knew, like, you're hungry, and wanting to go through and do it. But how awesome that is that Porter and Ryan want to,
Yeah.
to right. What was,
Maybe that was right. They're seeing other kids do it, so why not?
yeah, yeah, maybe so. Like they want to push it, and then, obviously I think, having you as the example out there wanting to do it with, I think is awesome, right? What was the debrief conversation with them like, in
Oh
terms of
man,
like,
it's just
yeah,
gratitude, man.
yeah,
So much gratitude. Uh,
oh
they were exactly right on the mindset piece. They were exactly spot on with everything that they had to do. And it was just so thankful, man. They got to be a part of it, and that's the memory, man. It's just but so much gratitude that they were able to sacrifice their time, their energy, and the preparation that goes into it. Because I mean, they kind of live and die. I mean, it's not like a 9 to 5 where they just kind of leave it. Those things linger, man. Then there are
mhm,
a lot of conversations about, hey, man, what about this? And what about if we need to do a sock change? And so, yeah, just a lot of gratitude that I had for them, man.
mhm. Yeah, and that's awesome, and that's close to what I thought it would be, but just to be able to have, again, to be a human, to be a father in that moment, and
Yeah.
be able to talk to them,
Yep. And
obviously.
there were so many, yeah, there's so many people that came and visited as well. Like I sent the invite to everybody who's gonna be around,
Yeah,
and so many people showed up at different times, and that meant a lot, man. That really meant a lot.
yeah. Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, and that's what I like hearing about this race, especially as well, it was about, the team, about
Yep.
others, of like, hey, I want to push myself to be able to do this, but you're believing your own words, or you're living your own words. No one gets there
No,
alone.
no one gets there alone, man.
Yeah.
Yeah, we
All
need
right.
others, right? If you want to go fast, go alone. But if you want to go far, go together.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. I've got a couple questions, I think, where we can wind up this
Okay,
conversation.
great, man.
Because I feel like we've covered a lot. You've shared a whole lot about it. Um, but so we'll get into a little bit of the nitty gritty, because maybe somebody's looking, to
Sure.
apply some of the mental skills that you've used, or just understanding it, right? When your body is yelling stop, like, and it may be goals, but what was the mental strategy you used there to be able to, work through that, and to keep yourself, running when maybe other people were having to pull out of the race? What was the strategy that you used in that?
I think the strategy was, everything was compartmentalized. So everything was, the compartmentalization was here's the target, right? Make it to the road. And so it was all short-term goals. And then it was compiled into when you get back there, hey, I don't know how much like there was still nutrition that was going on. But nutrition, hydration, and get back on the line, man. That was really it, man. It was just simple as powerful.
Hmm. Yeah. Well, and I think that's important too because as I've heard you say before, simple does not mean easy. And especially in those times, like, hey, the simple things are, the hydrate, nutrition, nutrition to keep yourself going. Simple doesn't mean easy, and especially in that moment, in that environment, it's not an easy thing to do.
Yeah, and that's the too often the picture can get too big, and it wasn't, man. It was just kind of keeping it small, man.
Hmm.
Enjoying the moment.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, and I think that's part of it too. Getting to enjoy the different, all the different moments for what they are. And that's important as you, I think, continue to go through it. The it's a race of last, till the last runner. What was it like watching the last runner come in after your race has concluded? What
Yeah,
was
so Jeff Walker won it at 158 miles,
Wow.
and I went back. I came home and I think I probably got like an hour's sleep. Like you would think like you sleep good, you don't sleep good, man. Like my recovery all week was bad, but I went back that night before the night loop started again, and so I watched them and just kind of dabbed them both up, and it was good being a part of that, But I got to see him, Abe, and Angel were the last three runners, and I saw them like they were like at 140 at that point. So they were getting ready
Mm,
to go nighttime. So I didn't see him actually finish, but like 158, man, was where it was.
wow. Yeah. Well, no, and I'm so glad you got to have that experience, watching the end of the race and being able to be a part of it because again, it wasn't a social experience, right? A social event, but like, some of those connections and conversations that you get to have with those runners, I think is important in terms of being able to feel like you're finishing it with them to a degree. So being able to see that. Right. So flipping it back to you, how does finishing this race change you as a runner, as a coach? We talked a little bit, as a person, how does,
That's a great question, Will. How
yeah.
does it change me? You know, you can't tell the significance of a moment in the actual moment. Sometimes you can, but you can only tell the significance with time and perspective. And I was filled with immense gratitude in this. I was really filled with a lot of perspective, controlling what you can control. The fact that I ran a really good race, man, the best that I could, under the circumstances. We took care of the details. Like that gives me confidence, man. That gives me confidence of like, hey, man, definitely onto something. Um, and then and I always want the good times to last a little bit longer. You know what I mean? But what occurred to me is this, and I've shared this one before, but I'll share it here. Because the bad times, because the good times don't last, no matter
Mm-hmm.
how great it is, right? Because the good times don't last, that's proof that the bad times can't last. We think it's rooted in, well, we have bad times, this too shall pass, but it's really rooted in the good times, man. No matter how great that game is, no matter how wonderful that birthday party was, no matter how wonderful the race was or the experience, it's going to pass. So that's the proof, man, that the bad times can't last. That's the proof. It's logic. It's factual. It's not just some saying to get you through the difficult times. And that was really evident in this, man. It was just like, hey, man, no matter what you're going to be going through, this too shall pass. It's true because the good times don't last, man.
Mm-hmm. I love that perspective. And yeah, and that's such a good lesson and message and probably honestly to end on because I think that's just such a good reminder and a high point. I kind of got lost in terms of like, oh wait, I'm the one asking questions of being here like, yeah, he's right. Like,
Yeah.
yep, this is, it's that good perspective of being able to shift of, hey, I want the good times to keep going, but understanding, hey, if the good times got to come to an end, the bad times do too.
That's right, man.
How am I navigating through that?
Yep.
That's
I appreciate you, man. Will, great questions, bud. I'm glad we could flip the script on this mental toughness podcast, man.
Yeah. No, I'm glad we could too. Appreciate you having me on and being a part of this, and just you being willing to share your experience about it. So that it's been wonderful, and I hope a lot of people can take a lot away from this.
My man. Thanks, bud.
You're welcome, man.